everybody would take their headsets off. Welcome back. Yes, Carol.
Can you talk again a little bit about the difference between insert comments and the advantages of both?
Absolutely. I just put May's concepts, and there's 18 or 20 ways that those participants that I teach thought that they might use this in their class. So I'm going to talk a little bit from that standpoint. Daryl, if you were just working one-on-one with a student, because it's a collaborative doc, you and the student, you might be giving them specific feedback where you're highlighting, something very specific and choosing insert the comment there, and you're telling them, what do I mean by constructive? Or you're pointing them out to a rubric, as in they missed a concept. So you telling them specifically that piece. And we've got students in this room using it both ways. If I if I click on one of these, it makes just a little brighter the particular item, and it can be a little hard to see up on this screen. It should be a little bit more vivid on your screen. What is it that's being talked about? And if you reply to that person, you might have to set up just a little bit of a guideline between either you or the group. What does resolve mean? Okay? Because you might want the reply to stay there, and then you choose to resolve things, or the original person who posted the comment gets to say, yes, it's resolved. So there's a difference. If I am inserting a comment by highlighting something very specific and going up to insert, then I'm sort of starting a discussion with that one person, and that would be resolving. But I can comment on the whole experience. I can comment on the whole document. I can make general comments. Heidi, would you agree that just using this comment button?
And that also might be a place where if your student is distributed, then you would actually have a synchronous conversation about the document.
On the right comment.
On the right comments, yeah.
We have had that happen
Yeah.
while we were in meetings,
Mhm.
where there was a discussion going on, kind of like a back channel, if you
Yeah.
will, or something where it's not taking away from the telephone conversation. But there's, wait a second, is that what you really meant? Going on here.
And you said the insert comment is more kind of pointed towards the one person, but it's still public. I mean,
Yeah,
everyone can
you're
still
sharing
see it.
this document. You're sharing this document either just with the one student, so you have to decide how you might use collaborative documents. And are you talking about you to them,
Right.
them to them? Is it just one person providing feedback to another person, or the whole group having a discussion?
And I
go ahead.
know, you could, as the instructor, just go into the document and highlight something and change something, like you might do in track changes in Microsoft Word.
Right, okay.
But then that maybe is seen from the student side as you're not giving them a choice. You're saying you need to do it this way, which may or may not be applicable. So when you're actually commenting, it's like pointing something out, giving the student the opportunity to take your
Hi, Megan.
suggestion.
Megan, wave at me.
Which one, me?
Yeah. Megan is looking inside of the collaborative documents, the actual slideshow. Can you see that Megan's over here? And she's on this slide right now. What? Why did I do that? If you were to share with your students some material that you want to cover, in a face-to-face class, and you're working your way through, you could actually see whether or not the students are getting into the material that you're sharing with them. And you could see if, in a sense, say you're going over mathematical formulas, if the majority of your class are 2 slides back from where you're talking. Maybe you need to slow down, maybe you need to back up, or you might have to pull their focus back and say, okay, now we're gonna move on. You might have to do that. It does happen, like right now. We're gonna move on. So I did wanna make sure that you're aware, you can use this in many different ways. You could connect your students to some content. You could have your students collecting materials to share either with you or each other. It could be a reflective journal, but in that case, they'd only be sharing it with you. And what Heidi had to say in terms of the way that you interact with the student, don't just edit their work, but maybe provide comments in the sidebar, would be much more, it would make much more sense. And they can share. Is it asynchronous? Yes. Okay, once you've shared the document out, they can work on it that night, they can work on it that week. You probably want to give them a deadline. And if you're going to do something like this, you would give them the scope of how are we going to use it, and also what does the document look like? I can see the changes that you've made or what you're working on. What are my other notes here? Collaborate with peers, thinking about the community, thinking about who's the member of the group, who you're sharing it with. Well, we've only just talked about Google Docs, but there's so many other tools that you could have them share. And I've got 5 minutes left. How about I ask you, would you like to see how something gets shared out to the web? How one of these docs gets shared out to the web? Or would you like to see how more applications get dumped in where your students could use different types of things in a group setting? Okay. Hearing nothing, I am going to show you some more, how do you connect more things? Yay! What? Oh my goodness. No, I know it's morning. I know. Yeah. Under my beautiful red create button, you're going to see you can create a folder to share. You can create a document to share. You can create a presentation to share. You can have your students create a presentation to share. A spreadsheet, a form, feedback. You could have them make a drawing. Okay, they can pull in pictures, or you could create a drawing where you give them a backdrop and they have to draw something on it from a math standpoint, a grid, where they have to prove to you that they understand. They're showing you what it looks like. You also can connect a few more things. Everybody should have those. When you click on the friendly red button that says create, you should have all of those. You can add more apps. And I'm just going to show you one real quickly and then show you how you can connect more apps. Yeah, sure. I'll create this in a shared folder. Okay. So this is free, and by the way, I pay for a service called MindMeister. It has a free side and it has a paid side, but what I found in this particular tool matches what I pay for, so that's kind of nice. In education, a Venn diagram, okay, title it. Okay, and we might drop out one of these particular circles, and what does this remind you of? Information fluency. What? Yes. Okay, so you can have people typing in here. What do they remember? How would they connect? How would they share? What part do they think they're missing in their communications class? They might not know yet how to do what. So you could actually have your student tell you where are they at in the process. And if I share this, I'm the owner, and I can send invitations via email to a specific small group of people, or I could create a link and share that link out, and I can set up so that other people can edit it. Wow. Can view, can connect, that's fun. I know I can do this. I know I can do this. Right now, you're only an editor, Heidi, with a blank invitation. Oh. Active invitations, new invitation. We will run out of time before you can get in there.
That sounded like a challenge.
No, it's not a challenge, it's not a challenge. Oh my goodness, too funny. She's like, I am definitely gonna get in there. I don't know if you're connected, Heidi, just because I ran into a roadblock right there.
So if you share this with the class,
Uh-huh.
are they each getting their own like
Oh,
Venn
no.
diagram, so they're all collaborating on the same thing?
On one document. The difference between the first activity where I had you all working brainstorming and this smaller second activity where it's just 3 or 4, it's one piece, it's one document. It's not 4 separate copies.
So you have to make some distinction between who's the same one.
Who's doing what? Yes, you certainly could, or you could have them determine how that, but make it clear, you know, like at the top, that they have to tell you how they're doing it. I don't want another one of these. It backfired on me right in front of all of you. Go ahead.
I'm curious whether you can use in Collaborate, can you share your desktop and be working on a collaborative Google Doc? Has anybody done that? Is that how it-
I would say that there are other tools for that, Google Hangouts.
The thing I run into is, I don't know, my students seem to have a hard time doing things outside of Collaborate when we're synchronously in Collaborate. Because there's, a lot of them are using the chat feature, and I don't know, I just haven't had a lot of,
Trying to funnel the collaboration within a Google Doc through Collaborate would be like another layer. You could just plain old collaborate in a Google Doc and be in a Hangout, in a Blackboard Collaborate session at the same time. You wouldn't need to run the other two.
just show it.
Yeah, just simply collaborate in the document while you're talking synchronously or doing whiteboard activities or whatever you wanted to do.
So your students would have 2 things going on. They would have the document and then collaborate.
If that sounds terrifying, I know that some faculty members have like told their students, let's do a practice session and then we'll actually have the class. So people who have never done something like that before, if you've never done something like that before, you just
But
get in
these
there
are
and
so much more
practice.
robust than what you can do in Collaborate as far as graphics.
And if you're in a
It's pretty-
face-to-face class, I would definitely just take them right in here. But if you're doing a hybrid or you've got some online students, you might just have to set it up beforehand because your online students can still collaborate from wherever they are. I hate that, those 2 words.
Collaborate.
Can use your collaborative document while you're doing it with your other students or over the course of the week.
You might, as Federa said, a good idea is to have a practice session or just a very low stakes assignment where they use a collaborative document for introductions or, you know, something like that that's fun and so they're actually learning that skill set. But then if you
Right.
want to have a high content activity, do that later.
Okay, so we've come to the end of my session, but certainly not to the end of your ability to think about how you might use these tools, whether face-to-face or online. And inside of the folder, hopefully everybody's got that folder now shared with them, you've got your peer group here, what they shared with you, ideas how you might use it, but you've also got the peer group from me, all of the things that they had to say. So you should see another document in there. And if you don't, just go ahead and either shoot me an email or wave at me and I'll make sure that everybody's invited to that folder. I think I got everybody in now. We just sampled what I would recommend you do with your students, either that first activity or that second activity. You know, that you would have them either working in a document while you're there with them, or you might have them working in a small group. And just like Owen said, it could be small stakes, you know, a few points attached to it before something bigger. You would scaffold, you would get them in and have them try something in a safe way, either for small points, low points, or no points. And then maybe a week later or 2 weeks later, you might actually roll out the assignment. But just in the same way that I started the session with a roadmap, you're giving them a roadmap and you're telling them why. So that ultimately, whether or not you're working in an activity or you're working in that evidence, I like to give students activities and then 2 or 3 weeks later, or 1 or 2 units later, I'm giving them an assessment that built off of the activity. That way their comfort level is ratcheted up, their confidence, maybe not through the roof, but they know the tool so they can focus on the content. I don't know who's up next, but